Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Outgrow's Market of the Month. I'm your host, Dr. Saksham Sharda. I'm the creative director at outgrow.co. And for this month, we're going to have a special series of Freelancer of the Month, for which we're going to interview Mindy, Morgan, Avitia. Thanks for joining us, Mindy.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, Mindy, we're going to start with a rapid fire round just to break the ice. You get 3 passes. In case you don't want to answer the question, you can just say pass, but try to keep your answers to one word or one sentence only, okay?
Okay.
All right, so the first one. At what age do you want to retire?
50.
How long does it take you to get ready in the mornings?
Between 15 minutes and an hour.
Most embarrassing moment of your life?
Pass.
Your favorite color?
Green.
What time of the day are you most productive?
Mid-morning.
Fill in the blank. An upcoming marketing trend is blank.
Is AI copywriting.
The city in which the best kiss of your life happened.
Austin, Texas.
Pick one, Mark Zuckerberg or Jack Dorsey.
Neither.
So that's a pass then. The first movie that comes to your mind when I say the word ambition.
Forrest Gump.
How do you relax?
I read.
How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
Between 2 and 3.
A habit of yours that you hate?
I am a hypochondriac and I hate it.
Mm-hmm. The most valuable skill you've learned in life?
Oh. The most valuable skill. To pause before I want to react.
And the last question is your favorite Netflix show?
Well, it's Stranger Things, I guess. That's what's on top of my mind.
Okay, so you had 2 passes, so you scored like 8 on 10. That was great. Now we're going to go on to the bigger questions. The first one is, so you've told us that you helped one international NGO define its voice and earn more revenue from email content. Could you tell us how you achieved that?
Yeah, so they are a rather big international NGO, and they have a pretty robust marketing department for a nonprofit, and they had all of the right pieces to have really great content, especially with their email strategy, with their audiences that they already had. And so they had, buyer journeys or donor journeys. They had a great brand strategy. They had a content strategy. But so they had the tone and voice, but their content wasn't quite matching up to all of this planning and preparation that they did. And it was very traditional nonprofit, donate here, the sad song of all of the things that are wrong in the world. And what I did was really study all of the preparation that they had done prior to develop a voice around, connecting with other humans. At the end of the day, that's what marketing is. That's what communication is really connecting with other humans. And once you have an email list, those are humans who have opted in to hear about you. So it's even more important to really hone in on a specific tone and voice. So I did that in terms of writing. I really refined their writing. And then we got more practical around our tests and our hypotheses, I should say. And so now we're learning as we go and we're refining. So what really helps click-through rate, because you have the benchmarks and you have, what other nonprofits are doing, but what other nonprofits are doing and the practical application of what works for them is different. And so that's what we're doing and refining, and slowly but surely we're growing revenue, campaign over campaign, month over month, and we're seeing really great success.
And how did the nonprofit find you in the first place?
They found me through an agency partner. So I work with an agency um, as a contractor with them, and they found me through that agency partner.
And how was the experience for you personally working with them?
I love it. I mean, my focus and my niche is impact driven brands. That's not just nonprofits. It's, anything but around companies who are values based. And so international NGOs are a great example of like the heart and soul of their communications and their marketing. And it's a unique challenge because they don't always have a product to sell. And so um, it's really, really rooted in storytelling. And that's who I am at my core. So I have a great time with them.
hmm And so, what pointers do you have for writers looking to produce non-branded, searchable content to draw in readers who aren't familiar with your brand but are looking for more details on a relevant subject?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question because I think a lot of internal marketing departments, especially with the brands that I work with, who tend to be more medium-sized businesses, um, they have a robust resources of their own case studies and their own customers and what their customers like and what they don't like. And I think when you're writing non-branded content, it's important to really think externally and do the research with that in mind around external audiences. So if you're doing a topic research, what are people searching for, and what are those high impressions, what are the high search volumes? And not only that, because if you're starting from the ground up with SEO specifically, just targeting high search volume or high impressions is probably not going to render great results, because we have to also have some more possible easy keyword difficulty. So that's my sweet spot with telling people, finding that topic research that has a decent amount of volume and low competition in the space to really start building up that non-branded content, and focusing on the intention of what you're writing versus just these keywords that might not make sense. I think Google and the Google bots have gotten a lot smarter over the years, and they obviously don't like keyword stuffing. And so just focusing on true value. I think one tactical thing that brands tend to do is, if they're writing a listicle or something, they'll always plug in their own brand somewhere in that listicle. And sometimes it may be relevant, but often it's not, in my opinion. I think there's other options for retargeting, or some call to action at the end if people want to continue. But I think people can sniff out pretty quickly this bait and pitch idea around an intriguing headline that's going to answer their question, and then they're just getting sold to in the second answer of the listicle or something like that. So that's a best practice to avoid, I would say, and one the consumers are a lot smarter than we give them credit for sometimes.
Hmm. And so, could you give us an example of a small or medium business with whom you've worked and tried to implement some of these strategies?
Yeah, so I'm working with a e-commerce brand right now who they are focused on young girls' empowerment through arts and STEAM education, specifically around activity books and things like that. So what we did was really try to, and they were successful. Their revenue was successful. Their sales were just growing month over month, year over year. And what the founder really wanted was to be a resource for caregivers and for parents of the girls who are using their products. And so what I did was come in, do the topic research, do the competitor analysis, and do the overall research around what do people who are buying your products want outside of just the sale. Do they just want the sale, or do they want more engaging content that's going to help their girls. Because if you're buying a coloring book that's meant to empower your young elementary school aged girl, it's likely that you're also going to find articles around cyberbullying and all of these things that are impacting girls helpful. So what I did was do the topic research around brand alignment and mission and vision alignment, so we can really hone in on the topics. There was a great resource of ideas and that just came from the marketing department. We think this is a great thing to write about. We think this is a timely topic. And then I came in with the research to say, hey, this is probably the biggest area of opportunity for us to grow, because we can, again, there's that high search volume, low difficulty. And so now we're really building up our positions and our rankings. And we are, the non-branded content is growing rapidly, whereas before they were only ranking for their brand names, and now we're ranking for much more along the lines of their new mission and the new direction of content they want to take. So it's great, and it's super fun. It's, again, aligned with the impact-driven brands that I love to work with.
And so when it comes to attainable, measurable goals, would you suggest establishing to realize what are the kind of attainable, measurable goals would you suggest establishing to realize a fruitful marketing strategy?
Yeah, that's like a huge question. I think I think one thing that's incredibly important is just the consistency of the reporting. I think smaller marketing departments tend to have really great ideas and then little resources to follow through. And so instead of having huge lofty goals, just being consistent with a few short goals that are impactful, like you know, if you really want to increase your brand awareness, what is the average session time people are reading your pages, and are they engaging, and are they moving down the funnel? Are they eventually buying your products or signing up for your email list? All of these things are important goals, but I think to back up, the biggest question is, I always compare it to how people say, I want to lose weight, where losing weight is not necessarily the goal. The goal is to wake up every morning and eat breakfast, or to wake up every morning and exercise, or whatever. That's the goal, not the goal and the habit. And so if you just say, I want to earn more revenue, I want more donations, I want more traffic, those are all there's a lot of different roads to get there, just like losing weight. So really focusing on a couple avenues to get there, and then measuring that over time and refining. I mean, monthly meetings around metrics go so far, because even though tools like Google Analytics are capturing everything in real time, having the report and the dashboard to all come together and discuss and then analyze and move forward with is huge, because you can refine, you can throw away things that aren't working. And yeah, I don't know if that answered the question, but
I
that's
mean,
my idea.
it was a very huge question. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, so what do you think about traffic then? Traffic is one of the hardest components to crack when it comes to succeeding online, and some say it's even the holy grail of marketing. So, do you agree with that statement?
Um, it depends. I think it depends on your brand, on your product, what you're trying to sell, and who you're trying to talk to. I think some people are super successful and they don't even have a website. They're just on Instagram, they're just on TikTok, they're influencers, or they have, I'm thinking of a really good friend who has a service around helping moms with home management. She doesn't have a website. She just has an Instagram and is wildly successful with it. So traffic doesn't matter to her website, obviously. And so she's not thinking of searching and rankings and position tracking and all of that stuff. So yeah, it just really depends on your brand and what makes sense for you. And if it does make sense for you, then traffic matters a lot.
Mhm. So could you talk a little bit more about the impact-driven e-commerce site that you worked with?
Yeah, so that's what I was talking about a little bit before, around the girls empowerment products.
Hmm.
And we, like I said, we did very extensive topic research around what people were searching within the niches. And from there, to create a content strategy, we drilled down on both what the content and the brand strategy was of the organization and what people were searching. And so marrying those two things was my role in the company, so I could help really both keep the mission and the human-centered values aligned with the content. So it wasn't just all very, very heavy SEO written content from, a third party agency that is getting great rankings, but, it's not converting to move people down the funnel or whatever. And so um, we really dove into competitor analysis, how other people were talking about and what they were writing about, and what those gaps were that we could really target specifically. Um, and it's been successful. Like I said, we've seen substantial month over month growth. We're growing at like 30% month over month in terms of traffic um, and click through. So it's been really successful working with
So
them.
how do you usually go about doing competitor analysis when it comes to situations like these?
Yeah, so competitor analysis, I'll usually use a third party tool like SEMrush or others, and I really dive into either the competitors that they want to see themselves compete against, or the competitors that the third party sites identify as these are similar content sites. Sometimes it makes sense depending on the client. Other times they're like, why are they a competitor? It makes no sense for me. Um, and so from there, we just look at, well, there's only one other person in this space or company in this space that are targeting paid ads. Maybe that's a strategy that we want to consider. Or, the social aspect right now is really oversaturated. So let's maybe take a little bit of money away from TikTok, which isn't performing well, and focus it more on organic search. So so that's how I start competitor analysis. I also have some interesting clients who specifically wanted competitor analysis around inclusive content, which was a really fun project for me because I got to really dive into their competitors and identify. Moz had a great resource for identifying exclusive and or exclusionary language on websites. And so I got to dive into a competitor and see how much other people and how much they were talking using exclusionary language that um, you know wasn't written with any ill intent, but maybe could have had some bad implications or turned away diverse audiences without them knowing. So that was a really fun project, and it was eye opening to see how much writers tend to write exclusionary content without knowing, with our own unconscious biases. So um, it just kind of reinforced the power of writing, and um, how when it comes from certain people and certain things, we always need to check ourselves and make sure that we are really aligned with the values of our own company and putting our money where our mouth is.
So could you talk a little bit more about exclusionary content for uh audience that is not aware of it?
Yeah, I don't want to be too triggering either, but because it tends to be a little heated when you think of these words. But words like, I think simple words like blind, like you don't want to be blind to marketing trends in 2023. Um, these terms may be more exclusionary to people because they're triggered by it, or they're experiencing blindness themselves or something like that, using the word handicapped or using the word um, master, like these kind of things can really be triggering for folks, and so and deter from certain audiences. So I think there's a great resource on Moz that has all of the exclusionary words to audit for, and some of them are shocking. And I think when you dive into the audit, you have to be really, it's a very manual process as well, because there might be a story about a blind man that makes sense for that word to be in and on your website. And so, yeah, there's words, there's phrases, like rule of thumb is a popular phrase that we use that is rooted in, are you familiar with the rule of thumb and what that is?
Not quite. What is that?
So basically, the rule of thumb is that you were allowed to beat your wife with a stick as long as it wasn't larger than, or it wasn't thicker than your thumb. So that's the rule of thumb. So these things are rooted in misogyny, racism, and some people may scoff at that, and other people may be very aligned and attuned with brands who are being thoughtful. And so those are the brands I tend to align with.
Okay. So what would you say, all in all, what are some best practices for writing SEO content in 2022?
Best practices. I think definitely focus on the intent of your content. Is it helping people answer the questions that they want, or is it just trying to get what you want them to do? So if you are selling a coloring book, say, is your brand and is your SEO strategy helping people along that journey, understanding why it's important to do this, or helping them along with the brand awareness that you have? Or are you just really being a self-centered brand and focusing more on, oh, we just want traffic, we just want conversions, we just want this? Or do you really want to build an audience, build connections, build trust, and overall build brand ambassadors who keep coming back as you make new products? I think SEO intent is definitely a huge factor in 2022.
And so related to this, how can one maintain a content strategy, keep it current and regularly adapted, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's just about consistency. Like I said, having an awareness that your content strategy is a living document. It's going to change. It's going to adapt, and having a regular cadence of check-in around content planning. What are we forecasting? What's happening in the world right now that's current, that that can capitalize on on current events and move forward that way. I think you could always do the topic research and always see what people are searching in a certain given time, but if you're not staying consistent with planning and forecasting your content and your metrics, then it'll eventually fall flat when you have turnover or whatever it is. So consistency.
Okay. And so the last question for you is, what would you be doing in your life if not this?
What would I be doing if not this? I would be writing, probably more for fun than for sales, but definitely writing. I've always been a writer.
Okay, so writing it is. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for joining us for this month's episode of Outgrow's Market of the Month. That was Mindy Morgan Avitia. Thanks for joining us, Mindy.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Check out her website for more details, and we'll see you once again next month with another Marketer of the Month.